Let's talk to Hannah Cooper, who is in Sana'a. She's a protection and advocacy advisor at the Norwegian Refugee Council. Hannah, many thanks for joining us today. We heard earlier about these startling figures from UNICEF, one child dying every 10 minutes in Yemen. I mean, those kind of figures are really difficult to get your head round. I mean, describe to us what that actually means in reality and how the situation got so bad.
I mean, we've got an enormous amount of the population in need of humanitarian assistance. So at the moment, 18.8 million people out of a total population of 27 million need some kind of humanitarian assistance. It's simply come about, I mean, as you mentioned during your report, Yemen was already the poorest country in the Middle East, but the escalation of the conflict in March 2015 has led to a huge deterioration of the humanitarian situation. We're not receiving the funds that we need to respond to all of the need in country. So we've got 2 weeks left of 2016 and the humanitarian response plan is still only 58% funded. So we desperately need more money to come into Yemen so that the humanitarian crisis can get the response that it really needs.
Even if you do get the funding that you need, isn't part of the problem that you can't get the aid to the people that need it?
It's certainly a difficulty, and all of the parties in Yemen have been responsible for blocking humanitarian access and blocking that access to the people in need on the ground. But humanitarian actors have proven that they're able to respond to this need. There are dozens of international NGOs and national NGOs responding across Yemen. NRC, for example, in 2016 has reached 1 million Yemenis in need. So it is possible to respond, but we need a scale up of the resources provided to organizations in country.
One of the things I was wondering, Hannah, is why don't people leave? We hear these figures of people being displaced from their homes, but people don't seem to be leaving the country. You don't seem to see the same sort of scenes that you've seen, refugees out of Syria. Why can't people leave?
So I think there's probably a range of factors, and you hear various things from Yemenis on the ground. I think, as has already been mentioned, Yemen is the poorest country in the Middle East, and so many people just don't have the funds that would allow for them to leave. I think also its geographical position is very isolated. Until earlier this year, there was an embargo on the country, and so borders were closed. The real option that Yemenis have is to leave by boat, which is extremely dangerous. The Sana'a airport is closed to commercial flights. So actually, for people wishing to fly in and out of Sana'a, it's impossible. The only flights currently operating are humanitarian ones. So it's extremely difficult for people to leave, even if they did want to leave. Your report mentioned that over 3 million people have fled their homes in Yemen, and I think it's fair to say that host communities, so the non-displaced people, have been extremely generous in welcoming these displaced people, in bringing them into their homes, in providing them with blankets, with food, with other forms of assistance. But it's also very important to note that these host communities themselves are suffering from the humanitarian crisis, and the small amount of resources that they had are being rapidly depleted.
Hannah, what is the priority in terms of aid? What is most needed on the ground?
So I think that there's, as we've said, a whole range of different issues that people are facing. A massive displacement crisis, a crisis of food security. People don't have enough to eat in Yemen, and the health services are collapsing. So only around half of health facilities are functional in 16 of Yemen's 22 governorates. So there's a whole range of priorities that we need to focus on. And as I've said, we need a general scale up of the humanitarian response. I think in addition to that, we need to recognize that humanitarian assistance is never enough. The economy is collapsing, the central bank is running out of money in essence, and so we're going to reach a situation where more and more people who don't necessarily need humanitarian assistance now will need it going into 2017 if this economic collapse continues.
Okay, Hannah, really appreciate your time. Hannah Cooper joining us there live from Sanaa from the Norwegian Refugee Council.